All right. Good evening, Westborough, and welcome to the meeting number 21 of FY 2026. This meeting is pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means, in accordance with the applicable law. This means that members of the public body as well as members of the public may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at Memorial Hall inside Town Hall at 34 West Main Street, and it is possible that all or some members of the public body may attend remotely, with in-person attendance consisting of the members of public. The meeting may be accessed remotely via the link provided in the agenda. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely as noted. Additionally, the meeting will broadcast live in real time via Verizon channel 28 and Charter channel 192 or via Westborough TV's online platforms at westboroughTV.org and youtube.com/westboroughTV. And then we get started. So do we have anyone for the public comments? John, I know you are on the call as well. Do you have any comments to make before we move to the next agenda?
I think he might be in his car listening now.
Yep.
John.
No.
Okay,
Who's that lady?
I'm all set, thanks.
awesome. Thanks, John. Drive safe. Okay, so next we move to the FY27 warrant articles, and we have two different great guests. One from the Conservation CPC for a presentation.
Fred Leonardo, Community Development Director. I'm here with Jen Miller is actually online. She'll be giving the presentations, but if there's any hiccups, I get backup.
Awesome. Thank
And
you.
if there's any general questions, I can help with.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. I don't know if there's a particular order that you were hoping to hear the articles in. If not, then I'll just jump right into the first one, which will be the CPC.
Sure. Yes, you could jump in. Yep.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Article
I
10.
think maybe you have to give me,
I
Oh,
may
no.
need to. Yep.
I'm sending a request to share.
You have to let
And
it
I-
share.
Yep, I did that.
You're saying Prashant's not sharing?
I did request.
Is it showing on the screen for all of you?
No, not yet.
It's not. It's just
Okay.
you.
Now you have to allow options.
Do I make her the
Sharing.
host, co-host, or something?
Is there a share screen?
Well, he'll share his screen if he doesn't do it. But you gotta find the setting for it.
Make host, make co-host. I don't think so.
So you can make her.
Do you
come
know?
up.
Nope,
Oh.
she went away. Oh.
I started screen share.
Go down to share.
Now, is it
Oh, yeah.
screen share now?
Yay.
Yes, you did it. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Sorry, just let me minimize some of this so I can see the slides on my side too. Okay, so the first request is for CPC, and I'll just plan to run through the slides, and if you all have questions, along the way, let me know. Otherwise, we can go into the questions at the end. Just have a few slides for each to try to keep it kind of short and sweet, but still give you a sense of the project. So the first request with CPC is for trail infrastructure improvements for Bowman Conservation Area. And in the background of this first slide, you can see a bridge that we did recently through a Mass Trails program. Some important items to kind of point out, even though it's in the background, is that it has an asphalt walkway from the parking area, making it ADA compliant. The grade is compliant leading up to the bridge. The bridge has the proper height for the handrails, the proper spacing to meet code requirements in terms of the slats between the rails. We also designed the landing on the other side of the bridge with a small flat area that could accommodate strollers or wheelchairs, walkers, anybody with, mobility assistance needs. So again, just a kind of a reminder for everybody to meet ADA, the American Disabilities Act requirements doesn't necessarily mean that, especially in a park setting, that everybody has to be able to access every part of the park or every corner and foot of the trail, but that they can have a similar experience to any other visitor to the facility. So the idea is to get them access, like right now there's access to the gazebo from that same parking area. We paved one of the parking spots and striped that and signed that for ADA access. This bridge was in pretty sad shape, so it needed to be replaced anyway. And so while we were going to the expense of replacing it, we spent a little bit more with that Mass Trails grant and our matching funds to bring it up to meet ADA requirements and provide some additional access for everybody. So right now, some of the current conditions you see on our trails, there's several stairways at Bowman Conservation Area. Some of you might be familiar with the area in the past. So I've been here in Westborough as the conservation director for a little over 3 years now. And in that time, a few of those staircases have been replaced by Eagle Scout projects, which is fantastic. And the one in the lower right corner is an example of that, where the actual wooden timbers themselves have been replaced and backfilled. It's a much better staircase than what was existing there before, which was in pretty sad shape and similar to some of these other photos. But you'll notice, and this is coming from the top looking down, this is a very long staircase and quite steep, and it's lacking any type of handrails, which is not only important in terms of the steepness that we have there and any trip or fall hazards. It's just something extra for people to grab onto, but it also is an accessibility component that we look at when we're doing improvements to these structures. So, it's a staircase. We're not talking about accessibility for the extreme case, which would be a wheelchair, but accessibility for all different impairments, whether that be mobility, someone who might need a cane or something along those lines. That would find it helpful to have that post and rope handrail, but also someone who has visual impairments might find it really helpful. And it's a long set of stairs. Anybody going up that set of stairs might appreciate a handrail to stop and rest if they can't make it up that entire flight without a little rest. And then in some of the other photos, you see there's the top photo on the left, there's rebar sticking out of one of the timbers. So the timber's rotted away enough that we have rebar sticking out, and that's the case on several of the stairways that are remaining that have not been replaced yet. The photo right below that on the left, this is near the Piccadilly Brook crossing over by Upton Road where the bridge is out. That bridge, as a side note, is slated to be replaced this spring into summer. We have the funding for that separately. But you can see as you come off that bridge, that's the new staircase at the bottom of that slope. And then as you go back up the trail this direction, hopefully you all can see the arrow on the screen as well. That area, there's only a little bit of wood left. It's all rotted away, so there's no staircase there. And especially when you're going downhill, it's pretty slippery with all the pine needles and leaves and pine cones, because it becomes a slip and trip hazard and needs to be replaced. And then you can see in the photo at the top right, again, some of those timbers are in decent shape, but some of them have rotted away and need to be replaced. There's quite a bit of deferred maintenance. I want to give some credit to WCLT, the Westborough Community Land Trust, which does a great job and has been a wonderful partner in not only putting trails in all of our conservation areas, but in doing regular trail maintenance. But these are some pretty big projects, and without a continuous supply of Eagle Scouts and others, these projects either get slated, pushed out down the road, or just can't happen because of a lack of people to complete the work, and it becomes a public safety issue, and also creates a lack of accessibility. So just, this is kind of what we're looking at out there right now. We have a few staircases that have been replaced. I would say there's 3 more that need to be replaced, that don't have Eagle Scouts waiting to do the projects. And again, they've become public safety issues. And then all of them, whether they've been replaced recently or not, need handrails, which are the post and rope style. And so this is an example of a staircase at another conservation area in another town that I worked in, where the timbers are set at regular height. So you have, even if the length of the step isn't the same, the height is the same, which is really important. You come to expect those steps to be at the same height, and it become a trip hazard when they're not. And then you can see the post and rope handrail system, which is definitely very helpful. Like I said, again, not just for those needing some visual and accessibility assistance, but also for moms walking with kids, for the elderly who may not be really steady on their feet. Really important that we try to make these trails as safe and accessible as possible. And then just to go through a little bit of how this aligns with the CPC funding priorities. So within, because this is relatively new for the town, the CPC funding, I wanted to just go through this quickly. Through CPC, there's a matrix basically of different project types, different actions, and different possible funding projects. So it could be recreation, it could be historical, and in that graph, they basically show what's an allowable expense and what's not under the CPC guidance. And so this is kind of where we fit in. It's rehabilitation and restoration of recreational lands. So making capital improvements or extraordinary repairs to make assets functional for intended use, including improvements to comply with federal, state, and local building or access codes or federal standards for rehabilitation. So it's not for historic purposes, but to make it compliant with the Federal American Disabilities Act, and then also to comply with local codes as far as offering that handrail too, I think is important. And then how this aligns with our own local Westborough community preservation plan. So the CPC has a preservation plan with goals outlined as to what their funding priorities are. And so I listed out 3 different aspects that this ties back into: enhancing ADA compliance at Bowman, improving open space and recreational assets, and establishing a town-wide trail system that is in safe, usable condition and is more accessible. And then this also aligns with some of our other town priorities. So if we take a look at the master plan or the ADA self-evaluation and transition plan, our open space and recreation plan that was completed earlier this year and accepted by the state, and then again the community preservation plan that I just talked about. I've pulled out a few in particular examples of where it aligns with the goals. So in the master plan, under the open space and recreation section, which is section 3, action 7, is review the findings of the town's ADA self-evaluation transition plan and work to address any deficiencies at the recreation facilities and identify opportunities to expand accommodations for those with disabilities beyond regulatory compliance. So again, we're not looking to just say we check the box and we met the minimum standard. We want to make our spaces as accessible as possible, and that's what's outlined in the master plan in our self-evaluation and transition plan. And just as a side note, that 2020 transition plan actually goes through each of our open space and active recreation facilities and lists out all the deficiencies that we need to address. And so it almost serves as like a guiding document for us in terms of where we should look to spend our funds. There's some things that are low-hanging fruit that are really easy fixes, like putting in ADA signs at our paved parking spots. And then some of them are a little bit more involved, like this project of adding in some handrails and replacing those steps to make sure they're safe and accessible. And then under the open space and recreation plan, goal 2, we have expand accessibility to recreation and open space amenities, including improving the accessibility of open space and recreation facilities, programs, services, and activities, ensuring full compliance with the ADA Act, and going beyond the 35-year-old law to meet today's needs, which is providing better and greater access for everybody. So not necessarily every feature, but providing similar access. And I think that's it for this one. Any questions?
Yep, thank you, Jennifer. So we do have some questions in the room, and then we'll move remote if they have any. Walter, you have a question?
Yeah, first, thanks. I think this is an excellent use of CPC funding on the area of disabilities. I think a different font set on those slides would be very helpful for people in the room, that instead of white on pale, it should be black on white or something, because it was really hard to read. But my question is, given the sticker shock I've had before on things like how much it costs to put in a bridge, $25,000, I hate to use the word bargain, but seems like if you're really doing that many, multiple stairwells and rope things, that seems
Reasonable?
yeah, it seems like it would cost more, given that what it's costed us to do, say, the bridge repair.
Well, so let me address that if I could, Fred
Yeah.
Lenaro, Community Development Director. One of the things that you'll see later tonight, Jennifer Miller is going to talk about the land management plan. So it's a building block. So this is just a small portion of that. So she's asking for other funds to do additional things. Once she gets to a point where she has that other plan that she'll talk about, and I don't want to get into that because she's going to talk about it, that'll explain some of the things you're talking about. So we have to do it in piecemeal. And for instance, the bridge that you referred to is like $75,000. So we're just starting to touch the surface of all the money that we may have to be coming in. So this is kind of the lead up to that. And we're trying to get it on the capital plan too. So this was aside from that. So Jen will talk on some of those things. And once we get the management plan, that'll then lead us to how we can get some of the capital improvements going. So I don't know if that directly answers your
Well,
question.
I guess for
but-
clarity, does this really pay for 3 stairwells and 4 sets of roping?
Well, that's, Jen can answer that.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
rent that
that's where-
specifically.
Curious, that's all.
Yeah, so I have sought proposals to make sure that it's in alignment with what we're actually gonna incur for costs. And our proposal is actually a little bit higher, so just in case we run into, an increased expense, something additional that we weren't expecting, I wanted to build in a little bit of like a contingency, so that 25.5 should cover a little bit more than what we have for current estimates. And, yeah, there's a big difference, like Fred was alluding to, there's a big difference in the sticker or the price of the bridge replacement, because that's a bridge structure, so we had to have an engineering firm design the bridge to ensure that it's going to hold up to future flood risks, because it's in a flood zone. The former bridge structure that was there, while it served the community well for a couple of decades, it didn't have some of the bare minimum things that you would expect to see in a bridge, even a pedestrian crossing. There were no formal bridge abutments. One side didn't even have any stonework, so it wasn't really attached to either side. It just rested on top of stones, stepped stone on one side and dirt on the other side. So we have site preparation work that needs to be done, including some concrete work and rebar, so that gets pretty costly. And the engineered plans, the bridge kit itself, we ordered, it was fiberglass bridge kit. Again, we looked at making the approaches as ADA accessible as possible, so that if there are future improvements to those trails on either direction, one of them not being very likely because it's quite steep with that stairwell or a set of staircases is. But we made it as ADA accessible as possible, so we've got the handrails, and it's a fiberglass structure, so that it's gonna last, 50 to 75 years. So, it's gonna outlast me. So that bridge is gonna be around for a long time, whereas these wooden timbers, they're gonna have an expected return on investment or expected useful life of, I'd say 10 to 15 years. Before they're gonna need to be replaced, because they're just wooden timbers held in place with rebar. They're not fiberglass structures. So it's a little bit not an apples to apples comparison. But we do have a sense of the cost by seeking proposals.
And is the wood cedar or pressure treated or something that's a little more preserved than just like
Yeah.
straight pine or something?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, I think it's a great idea.
Just a question, so this would be coming out of the fund, right? The,
CPC
Community
fund.
preservation,
right,
yeah.
how do we know how much is in the balance of that fund?
It's in the other article.
The other,
Yeah.
yeah, that was my question to add to Terry. Which particular, is this gonna come from the open space? Is
No, it's, go ahead, I'm sorry.
John Steinberg, Finance Director. That'll be part of the presentation. It sort of came up at the last minute at the Budget Summit. To give you a quick idea, each individual bucket, if you will, open space, recreation, housing, and historic, at the end of fiscal 2026 appropriation, and 188,000, I'm sorry, with the estimated 2027, $188,860 in it. And then there's the reserves aspect of it, that's 1.26 million. And just to give you an idea, so each year, as you'll see on this warrant, we appropriate estimated funds for the upcoming year. And you have to put at least 10% in each of the three buckets. Okay? You can appropriate 5% to administrative fees, which we do each year. Now, 2025 was the first year of administrative fees. Of the $24,692, just over $7,600 was spent. So that net amount rolls into the reserves, okay? The reserves numbers that you'll see are going to include the state match, okay? They will also include earnings on investment, but will be tied to not necessarily prior numbers of appropriations, but receipts. So if they're outstanding that we haven't received, those numbers are going to vary a little bit. To give you just a little circle the loop here, the open space and recreation total request is 175,000. So that will fall and stay within that bucket. Okay, it will not exceed the balance of just the open space recreation. The historic requests are 227,900. So that will exceed the historic balance of that bucket, but will then 39,000 would have to come from the the balance reserve, but that's okay. That's what it's there for. Okay, so all those numbers will be presented along with that. We're still working out what those finals are.
But high level, the total amount was 1.26 million?
That's just in the year-end reserve.
Yeah.
It's 1.26 in the
Coming into
reserve,
year, we have
188 in each bucket.
Okay,
Okay.
that's helpful, thanks.
Any other question? Go ahead, Andrew.
Sure. So Jennifer, the determination for these projects, I'd imagine, are going to go to the areas that have the greatest needs / the greatest use by others. So can you speak for just a moment about how you've determined this is something that rose to the top of the list relative to other areas that may be more highly trafficked or other areas that may have more physical or greater like capital demands?
Sure. So I think really you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of how we've been looking at it. But as Fred alluded to earlier, one of the other presentations I have is about land management plans. I actually saving that one for last because I'm hoping the first two presentations will give you a sense of why we need the land management plans. So Bowman Conservation Area and Mill Pond or Headwaters Conservation Area, depending on which one you call it. Those are our two most heavily used of the conservation areas. You see a lot of regular foot traffic, scout groups, school groups. WCLT does tours through those properties, both for school groups and adults. So kind of prioritizing those two is where we're focused right now because they have the greatest use, and they also, in that use, there's a lot more wear and tear on the structures. So that's kind of where we're focused. We also have some new acquisitions. While they're not necessarily in our current warrant articles for trail infrastructure improvements or for the hazardous tree removals, which is the next one we'll be presenting. It's not that they don't have those needs, it's that some of those we're able to cover through our regular budget. And it's like for the Ellis Walker property we just acquired, we also had some initial stewardship funds. So in working with WCLT, we're able to kind of look at getting some of those, like the parking area we're contracting out at Ellis Walker, and that was part of our initial stewardship funds that we carried over. And then we have, we'll be putting in a kiosk, that's an Eagle Scout project that we'll be helping to pay for, with Eagle Scout will be bearing some of that cost. So it's also a matter of where else do we have money coming from other sources.
Thank you.
If I may too. So part of this too, and what, again, Jennifer will get into a little bit more in a couple of the other presentations, is that we, at the community development group, conservation being part of that, has some operating budget, but a lot of that is used for routine maintenance. And we've gotten to a point that, and again, I don't want to steal all the thunder, but we've started to accumulate so many acres of land that we can no longer just depend on Westborough Community Land Trust, Sudbury Valley, albeit she's working with those groups very heavily, but the town really has a responsibility to start maintaining these properties, and that's where we're running to. So we can't just use our operating budget. We just don't have enough money in that budget to do all this. So that's kind of the backdrop to this too, just to paint that picture.
Sorry guys, and I just have a clarifying question. I'm looking at the tracker editor on our AFC article worksheet one that you created for us, Andrew. I just want to clarify, so on Article 7, I see a proponent as CPC for various line items, whereas for Article 10A, which pertains to this, the proponent is conservation, whereas the funding source is the CPC fund. Can one of you just clarify
Yeah,
the difference between?
Article 7 is setting up the CPC budget, so to speak, the buckets that John just spoke to, unrelated to
Yeah.
giving money to anybody into this. Every amount that's going to be granted from the CPC has to be approved by town meeting. So Article 10, A, B, C, D are all articles where we want to spend CPC money. And so the proponent in there, because the best people to speak for it in this case is CPC. They got the CPC committee to agree this is right, but we'd rather hear from Jennifer Miller on this project than the CPC group explaining to us what Jennifer said. So you'll see in 10B, like one's for a school, one's for this, one's for that. And so 7 is merely just the statutory requirements of putting the CPC funds into their right cash register. Counts?
Yeah, just add to that.
We sounds good.
Yeah.
Because CPP is still new to the town. So the way it works is there's a dedicated percentage out of the tax dollars that come in each year that goes directly into that CPC fund, the Community Preservation Fund, through the Community Preservation Act that the town adopted. And the town's been adopted at different percentages. I think Westborough is at 0.5%. And so it's a way to set aside dollars automatically out of the tax revenue that comes in specifically for these types of projects. So whether it's land acquisition, historic preservation, improvement of recreational, so like fields, playgrounds, those sort of things, and also trails, in certain circumstances, the projects can
Yeah, I mean, it's explanations of this all in the budget book to read too. Just look up CPC.
It's up to the individual organizations to apply for funding through CPC. And then CPC decides whether they're going to bring those projects forward for consideration at town meeting.
I just want to point out one thing. These are not tax dollars. This is a surcharge outside of the taxes that the town adopted. It has nothing to do with the taxes that are raised. So I don't mean to step in, Jen. That's okay. It's just an important distinction so that people don't think that they're
It's on
spending
your
their tax
bill, but
dollars.
it's-
I mean,
It's on their tax bills. It was adopted separately for the town as a surcharge, not a tax.
And there are matching funds from the state.
Yes, there are matching funds from the
matching funds
state.
come up.
Which is the important part.
It is part of the motivation to do this. The first year we were matched at 18%, the second year at just over 16%. So each year, the matching funds for the state come out of the Registry of Deeds recording fees.
Sorry, I think we have more articles as well, Jennifer.
Yes.
So I think we can reserve more questions for those. Please go ahead, Jennifer.
Sure. Are there other CPC articles that are being presented tonight too, or is it just conservation?
Just conservation? Okay.
Okay. Just making sure you can see the same screen.
Yes, we can. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So this one is, again, it's not specific to, or unlike the last one, it's not specific only to Bowman Conservation Area, but that's where we started our survey or our assessment of hazardous trees. So you'll see most of the photos are focused there and most of our examples. But these funds would be used for our highest hazard tree removals throughout our conservation areas. So whether it's at Headwaters Conservation Areas, Wicker, wherever it might be, that we've got a hazard on trail, and again, based on frequency and the number of trees that we can remove with the requested funds. So just to go through the warrant article language quickly, I really want to focus on kind of the part that I underlined, and I apologize if the white lettering is hard to read for you all. But basically, the Conservation Department has been working with our GIS analyst, Pam, who's amazing. We can't say enough about her. She does incredible work and allows us to map a lot of different features throughout the town. So she's created a GIS layer to help us evaluate and track hazardous trees in all of our conservation areas. And as Fred mentioned earlier, we have a pretty extensive network of trails. There's over 600 acres of town-owned conservation areas currently, and if you track all of the miles that we have throughout our conservation areas and in some of the linked properties, there are over 50 miles of trails that the residents and visitors have access to. So it's important for us to keep track of hazardous trees along those trails in our parking or staging areas. So we've been using that GIS layer, mapping, photographing, and ranking trees based on a number of criteria. So their state of decline, size, risk to falling across the trail. We're not obviously looking to take down trees, whether they're dead or dying, if they're well off the trail and don't pose a fall risk to people who are walking and hiking on those trails. So we're not looking to take down every dead and dying tree in the conservation areas. We're focusing on safety hazards and keeping people safe on the trails. Potential for removal by others. So in some cases, WCLT does have some stewardship members who will go out and do some light duty chainsaw work. So smaller trees, ones that are not really technical to remove. We also are working with the tree warden and his crew in DPW to get some removals done in our conservation areas each year, but the majority of their workload is focused on town right-of-ways, so roadways and the areas along those roadways and keeping those safe. And so they don't necessarily have the amount of time that we need to catch up on the backlog of trees that we have. And the important part to focus on is while we're continually adding to new hazards as they come up along these trails, there's a backlog of trees that haven't been dealt with in a number of years. And so we have quite a bit to catch up on. So the intent of this warrant article is to address the backlog of tree removals posing the highest risk throughout our conservation areas through a contract with for professional services. Some of these trees require either equipment that we don't have or a skill set that is outside of our skill set. The motion for the article is a simple majority vote. This is an example of Bowman Conservation Area again, where we've gone through the trail system and prioritized those trees and evaluated them, again, based on the tree species, the tree condition, the hazard type. So is it a widowmaker that's going across the trail and hung up on another tree that could easily fall down? Is it already on the ground, which poses less of a risk, but something that people then have to get around? The status of the tree, is it already dead? Is it dying? Or is it in good health and it just needs some branches, larger branches trimmed that overhang the trail? Who might do the removal? Again, whether it's WCLT or we're looking to contract it out. And then the priority categories. So what we're focused on is the urgent and high priority items. You'll see there's some in the darker purple color, which is closer to the staging area, where we saw that bridge in the other presentation, where we've already removed some trees, and that'll come up in a future slide.
Great.
Okay. And then for this, I just focused in on one individual tree that we had marked as a high hazard. So this is the one that's highlighted in blue right here. Sam, our conservation assistant, is in the picture for sense of scale. She's standing on the trail itself. It's a little hard to tell because there's so much pine needle cover right now. But you've got a dead tree across the trail, hung up on another tree, and you can see there's another tree on the uphill slant that's fallen over. And this is from the other direction, the photo all the way to the right. You can see again, there's some dead trees above the trail that are just kind of laying on the hill. So while we have this marked as the main tree is our, that's hung up, that's currently a widowmaker, is our bigger issue. There are other trees in the area that need to be dealt with as well. They're just not as high of a priority as that one. And then just some additional examples to give you a sense of kind of the backlog. Again, these are all at Bowman. This one is a widowmaker, so it's a forked tree that has split apart, and the fork closer to the trail, which is right down here at the bottom of the screen, is hung up in a pine tree, and at some point that's going to come down. We'd like to make sure it comes down in a way that's safe with a tree professional instead of falling on its own, potentially hurting somebody. This one is a tree that has already fallen, so it's not as high of a priority, and you can still navigate around the trail.
Thanks, Jen. Yep.
Okay.
I think we got examples
More
now.
examples.
I think we can go short. I don't think we want to look at every of them. We understand the hazardous trees.
This is only a small sampling, so this
Okay.
is, again, another spot where there are a lot of dead trees, in an area right in the middle of the trail's right in the middle of it all. Another one here, it's another forked tree overhanging the trail.
Yep.
And then just a recent example to give a sense of cost. I know there was a question that came up in the prior presentation. So in this photo, it's the same tree at the front. There's another tree behind it that you can't see as well. These are two green ash trees right at the front of Bowman Conservation Area that have been dead for a number of years and were dropping large branches. We had those removed, those two trees, and another one a little bit further back, closer to the pavilion. So 3 medium to large trees with easy access. And that took a full day with a tree crew, and that was around $5,000. So you can get a sense of cost when we're talking about trees that aren't as easy to access, that are just as big in size. That $75,000 will get a lot done, but it's not going to get everything done. This is just a starting point. And we'll come back to that with the land management plans, as Fred alluded to.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Any questions from?
Just the left pocket, right pocket. So this is coming out of free cash though. So it's more of the operating budget. We're assuming their operating budget doesn't cover the expenses, so thus it's coming out of free cash.
It's coming from the free cash. And that's where my question was, in fact. Jen, I hope you got it, right? So just to confirm, this is coming from free cash and not your sizing your operating budget, right?
Yeah, my operating budget is much smaller than that. So,
No, as alluded to before, we have taken some money out of our community development operating budget to do some of this, but we don't have anywhere near enough to do all the tree work that has to be done.
And is this something which could come off the community preservation fund as well?
No.
It's considered regular maintenance.
Right, this is
Regular
part of the,
maintenance.
you actually can't use, as I understand it, you can't use CPC funds for regular maintenance.
Yes.
That would be different.
Got it.
Well, yeah, I guess there may be some exceptions to that, but
Because the way I see this is that these trees will keep coming probably every year. So does this mean every year we will have to get this off the free cash?
well, it depends. So as Jen Miller had alluded to, she has a full list.
Yep.
So we're hoping to attack a chunk of that, and
Yep.
we're also working with DPW to do this on a regular basis. So I guess I don't have that exact answer today to how much more we may need in the
Yeah.
future. But we hope to whittle it down and get it so we don't have to keep coming back every year for this kind of money.
That's where exactly I'm alluding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea is to address the backlog
Right.
that we have, and then as new trees come in, hopefully, we might need to increase the operating budget, and that's kind of where the land management plans come in, giving us a better sense of what we need to truly cover these annual costs.
Right.
I was about to say, how many years has it been since you've done, or if you've ever done, a major tree cleanup like this?
So most of these trees have been like this since like before I came here. So
Right.
there's been a backlog for a number of years.
I don't think we've done it.
Never, right?
I'm sorry?
Probably never,
mean,
other than volunteers.
Well,
Right,
Land
exactly so. And we've had some emergency situations where the DPW has helped us, and they've done that, but we haven't had a concerted effort. The whole idea of trails and maintenance and all that has come to light more recently in the last few years. It certainly wasn't, I don't want to say a high priority, but it wasn't a huge function of conservation when I first started eight plus years ago. So as we keep continuing to acquire properties, and we start looking at our trails and how it has to be maintained, these costs have started to come up. This will be the third presentation when Jen gets into that really is the real push to why we have to do what we have to do with the land management.
Land management. Mhm. Yeah, I look forward to hearing that as well before any comments. Thank you.
And I just
Right, so it's more of a foundational question. So, I mean, you kind of presented this at the beginning. Hazardous trees include those trees that would fall and create some danger. But is there, but in this photo here, we're seeing a tree that has actually fallen and is present on the ground. My question would be, what percentage of the hazardous tree removal pertains to removing those trees that are actually live at the moment but present danger versus those that might be on the ground? And as a follow-up to that, has there been any analysis done on whether some kind of cost reduction could happen by letting those trees that remain on the ground and just degrade and disintegrate that way? But that would all require figuring out what percentage of this approach is trees that are already fallen versus trees that are still standing.
Yeah, so in that photo, on the first, the main slide, the tree on the ground isn't the concern, it's the tree above me, that is overhanging the trail and leaning heavily and has root uplift, that is the concern. So that's the tree that poses the greatest trail hazard. The tree on the ground, we would probably leave. It probably had a section that went across the trail and was cleared years ago, and it's not moving right now, so we're not concerned about it. And it's laying.
Got it. All trees. So all trees that are being targeted here are those trees that are live and present and have an imminent danger associated with them. None of them are those that are already fallen.
If they're fallen and they're currently across the trail, then they're on the list.
They are on the list.
But to remove the section across the trail, we'll just open the trail back up.
Cool. Thank you,
That
Jen.
makes sense.
Yep.
Moving
I
on.
think we can proceed.
Okay.
14A, maybe?
Okay. And then, so this final one is for the land management plans or LMPs. So as Fred was talking about earlier, the town has been thankfully acquiring more and more open space, and has done a good job of that, over the last several decades. And We stand at over 600 acres of town-owned conservation land, with approximately 50 miles of trail. Some of that is not necessarily, the lion's share of it is on town-owned property, but we also have connections to lands that WCLT might own or that the state might own over at Lake Chauncey. So, and for our trail users, they're just looking to get out there and walk or hike. They're not necessarily aware that they're crossing from one jurisdiction to another. So there's over 50 miles of trails for residents to use. Again, most of it on our town-owned properties. We have a great partnership with WCLT that's helped us establish and maintain the trail system that we have for decades. There's a figure that shows the total of the different conservation areas and their acreage, and then a map from WCLT for the charm bracelet. And that runs through all of our different conservation areas and some of the other jurisdictions as well. So when we think about land stewardship, a lot of people automatically think about trails and public access, so passive recreation, and then how do we access those properties for the public. So our staging areas, our parking areas, the trails require maintenance, but there's a lot more that goes into land stewardship beyond passive recreation and public access. So these are components, but they're not the only components. Some of the other benefits and uses that the conservation areas provide beyond recreation are water supply protection. It's really important to Westborough. About a third of our drinking water supply is allocated through Sandra Pond, that reservoir, and we have conservation areas that not only surround it, but also feed into it with waterways that run through them. Flood protection, that's become increasingly important with our more intense rain events. Low-lying wetland areas can help attenuate some of those floods. Carbon sequestration, again, something that's become more and more important over the last couple of decades. Increased property values, enhanced biodiversity, habitat preservation, and preservation of community character. And then, so just to understand what an LMP is, it's different from a baseline survey. So a baseline survey is existing conditions. What does the property currently look like? Ellis Walker would be a good example of a property we just acquired, and with Sudbury Valley Trustees, SBT, we've just completed a baseline survey. So that's what's there currently in terms of invasive species, native species, waterways, trails. It's not how we're looking to manage the property into the future. LMPs serve as a roadmap for property stewardship that, together with the baseline survey, explores community goals, potential opportunities, and possible threats. So there's a strong component of community input that comes into an LMP as well. Evaluating the unique importance of each open space area. So some of them have waterways and wetlands, others are more upland and don't have as many, don't offer maybe water supply protection. And they also outline management recommendations to best protect and enhance the community benefits. So whether it's trail maintenance needs, like we talked about, having a greater sense of what do we have in terms of total existing tree hazards throughout our conservation areas, and what can we expect in terms of future with invasive pests and climate change. What does tree maintenance needs look like into the future? The land management plans will help provide cost estimates for those. Invasive plant controls. So those are all kind of different aspects that it'll look at. And then again, it establishes community priorities and estimated costs. And that's another reason why it's so important. I know there's a lot of questions from you all and from residents in general. If we're looking to spend this money on hazardous trees, or we're looking to spend this money just on the stairways at Bowman, like, are you coming back each year for other conservation areas? That's part of the reason why we want to pursue these land management plans, is so that we can give a better sense of what the total look like and what the highest needs are. So why are they important? It really allows for the community to set the priorities. As I kind of said at the capital expenditure presentation, I'm here now as the conservation director. I've been here for 3 years. There were others that were in the roles before me, some for longer periods, some for shorter periods. you don't want the priorities for these conservation areas to change with every time you have a staff change. And so this really allows for the community to get input and provide several decades of outlook as to what the goals and priorities are for those conservation areas. They should align with other town documents, the master plan, the open space and recreation plan, capital plan, allowing for better forecasting, both from a financial perspective and also in terms of how it fits in with other projects going on in town. And then it maximizes the opportunity to explore alternative funding sources, whether it's CPA funds or grant funding. So if we can forecast for things that we need, then we don't necessarily have to have them coming in as free cash items, and we can pursue other funding. The idea of completing the land management plans aligns with the master plan goals and action items. So I outlined, again, I'm not sure how well you can see with the white print, but I outlined 3 different action items. Under the open space and recreation goal 1, action 5 states very plainly, prepare land management plans for the town's existing open space and conservation lands. And then under the NCH goal 1, action 1 is to improve and expand the town's land management planning for its conservation areas with land management plans that support sound decision making. And then action 1.5 is protect, enhance, and increase the town's natural systems. The proposal that I used for the cost estimate came from a group called the Collaborative, which is an experienced consulting firm that's composed of landscape architects, landscape ecologists, and conservation planners. Each conservation area will have its own LMP with goals and management and best practices specific to that conservation area. And kind of on the right-hand side is an example of typical table of contents for a land management plan. As part of that process, we would have public outreach sessions that's built into the budget at the project kickoff, and again, when we get ready to review the final drafts. There's an estimated cost of $90,000.
Awesome.
Sorry, I went through that fast, but I'm trying to be considerate of the time.
Yes, thank you, Jen. Yep, I guess I'll open up to any questions.
And why is this coming out of free cash?
One time.
It's proposed for capital.
It's
Yeah, as
part of
opposed to
capital.
capital.
What do you mean? It is a capital
Why does it come
article
out of
Yeah,
like
I
the
think-
CPC surcharge?
because this is, again, not
Yeah.
qualified for CPC.
Yeah, Ms. Miller actually went to VPC and applied for it, but what, it didn't qualify. They did check that, so we did try to do that.
I think that might be,
I'm sorry?
I think that's
Something
coming
on
in
the-
already.
Oh,
There's nobody.
Yeah.
So it was looked into whether we could do it through CPC funds, so we didn't discard that. But it didn't make it.
The very specific
Okay.
requirements for
Yeah.
CPC, and it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with
Yes,
this.
and I think plans like this are typically, because they're one-time funds, they can result in a long-term plan. It's very common for that to be a good use of free cash because it puts in place a plan that will lay things out. As you've seen in our history, you know, it's a one-time expenditure that can lay out a path to how we expend and plan for funds.
Yeah, I just didn't know the criteria
Yeah,
for the CPC
okay.
fund.
Yeah, yep.
Homework to do.
Any questions other than that?
No.
So I had a couple of questions actually, Jen. So to me, as I understand, this will tell exactly what the priorities should be, what are the areas and what the costs will be. That's what really the intent is. Would it also give us some kind of 5-year projection in terms of like, okay, to manage this much amount of land for the town, this is kind of like a per year forecast of how much they have to spend as a fixed cost versus discretionary cost. Is that something which will come up as a outcome of the study as well?
So because it's gonna be specific to, we'll get a land management plan for each area, it's not gonna necessarily give us a per acre cost, in terms of something that would guide us for future land acquisitions and budgeting. But it will give us a sense of how much, what the annual cost and capital costs are associated with each of these areas so that we can then forecast that better.
Got it.
And, you know, we can also look at, if we're considering acquiring a property that's similar to Ellis Walker, we're gonna have a sense of what the costs are at Ellis Walker, so we can then apply it, roughly to a future acquisition. So I think it gives some guidance, but not an actual figure.
Forecast.
So part of it too, though, this is the first part to then looking at our operating budget, the budget that's under community development, and seeing how what and where we'd have to increase that to, so we don't have to come back for capital expenditure every year. It just become part of our regular budget. At this point, we've struggled with that, and we've come back and said, well, we need to increase our operating budget $10,000 a year or $20,000 a year, but we haven't had the full justification. This gives us that jump off point to then do that. So I can go to the finance director and go to the manager and say, we have to increase our operating budget to a certain point to be able to do our annual maintenance every year. So this is that first step.
But sorry, just to follow up on that, but is this something we could also retrieve from our benchmark communities, that how much they are spending to maintain their per acre land? Like, do we need to have some kind of?
No, so, excuse me. Open space was not one of the criteria that was considered. That is, I don't even know how we'd go about doing that, because there's such diversity in location, type of land. You know, it was really about affordability, not necessarily that type of expenditure. I think one of the important things about this is it's going to give us two components. It's going to give us capital investment of one-time funds as to how to bring these different locations up to a point where we can just focus on maintenance. And then it will give us the maintenance component of that. And then the town can set priorities relative to the different projects and their cost. To say, okay, well, this property needs a bridge, stairs, whatever the case is, right? And that's going to be X. This property needs Y. And what are they going to need to maintain, so we can figure out where our resources are, both by a funding and personnel stance, to maintain this going forward, so we don't run into this place where we purchased all this land and now we don't have a plan to maintain it, or it falls into disrepair through deferred maintenance. So it's a good first step, given how much land we purchased, to make sure it's up so that the town can use it to the best of the ability and the purpose for our purchasing.
Got it. And just one last question, John, and I'll end it there. Very foundational. Do we also maintain some kind of like a ratio of how much land the town owns versus in the conservation versus the residential versus commercial? Are there any such kind of ratios which are maintained and then compared to other towns? Like, is there something of that concept which exists?
Land use can be derived from our data. You know, in the assessor's classification, it breaks it out into open space and land, and there are different criteria based upon ownership. We just have to have a purpose and what you hope to gain from it. You know, it's a time investment of time and, again, resources to say, okay, well, what percentage of the town is controlled by conservation versus other organizations, because there's open space that is not necessarily under the ownership and control of conservation, because they're Sudbury Valley trustees and other people. So you'd look at open space. You know, what you're indicating, like, I understand the technical analytics side, but I would just throw out, you know, where you're going with that relative to what the purpose is, so that we could direct the resources to extract the right data, you know, because it's a complex ask.
I agree. I totally agree with you. And I think where I'm heading to is the fact that, as you would go through the theme that we have been going through for this fiscal year, is not really what we are spending or what we are requesting as a budget, but it's more about structurally how are we limiting our expenditure to not outpace whatever we are getting as receipts or revenue, you know, at the pace at which we are growing. And do we have a handle on the fact that the amount of land that we have acquired, is that good enough, or how much capacity do we have to maintain it versus acquiring more land?
Yeah, again, that brings me back to, I think, an answer I gave at the budget summit is, it's a question of taxpayer services. You know, how much open space do they want? They vote for it at town meeting.
Agreed.
And what's the desire of the tax base as to what is tolerable or an acceptable ratio, again, that's town meeting. You know, they vote for services, they want X, Y, and Z. You know, that's not something that, you know, and you can have your individual opinion and recommendations, but that's, you know, that's up to the voters.
Sounds good. Anyone else?
I have one question. When it says, for the purpose of hiring professional support for the development of land management plans, what, is that a one-time deal?
Oh, Jay can answer this too. Yes, we did. The intent is to hire a third-party consultant to do this.
Ah,
We're not doing this in-house. Sorry
okay.
if that's confusing. I think Jen had alluded to, she had gotten a quote from one company. Once we get, if the money is appropriate, it should go up a bit.
So that's the 90,000
Yes,
that you got a quote from a third company?
correct.
Okay,
She had it listed.
I think she would
Okay.
agree with that statement. Yes.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Very
anyone?
helpful, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for the presentation. I appreciate you coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Jess.
I appreciate that. Okay, from land we move to wastewater board. Please go ahead and come up with your presentation and please introduce as well. Yep.
Plug it in.
Yeah, should work.
Should work with the plugin.
There it is.
Yep. Up there. It's
You're
up,
Darlene, I hope.
it's up there, Darlene.
You
It's
can
up,
see, oh.
Yeah.
And we can see here too.
yeah.
But can the folks on the Zoom meeting see this?
If
See the
Westborough TV
presentation?
puts- Yeah,
Yep,
you're saying
They
it.
can.
They can. Okay,
Thumbs up.
awesome.
I think that was a thumb.
I saw a thumbs up.
My name is Darlene Domingos, and I'm the administrator for the Westborough Treatment Plant Board. I'm here today with Mike Stanton, who is chairman of the Treatment Plant Board. So we're here to talk about Article 16, which is improvements to the wastewater treatment plant.
Darlene, just to back up 1 second, we have like at least four of our members are really pretty new. So just a 15-second, what the wastewater treatment plant board would probably help as well. I mean, it's a multi-town, right? 3-town group that runs the treatment plant. So I think that little bit of background can help because we have
Okay,
a
so-
lot of new people.
Got it. So the Westborough wastewater treatment plant is, it's co-opt with the town of Shrewsbury and the town of Hopkinton. Okay, 3 towns involved. Hopkinton on a very, very small basis. And it's governed by an intermunicipal agreement that was, I'm not sure what year that was put in.
Early 70s.
Early 70s, which is, was done through the state legislature. So the wastewater treatment plant board consists of 3 members from Westborough and 3 members from Shrewsbury. We are charged to oversee the operation of the plant. And the plant is, we have a contract operator, Veolia International, who works off a contract. They actually operate the plant. We govern, we oversee what they do. Okay, so the financial side of it is each town pays a percentage of the bills, okay, according to what flow they put into the plant. Okay, and I think right now, I think Shrewsbury's at what, 60?
57%.
57%.
38 for.
Westborough's right around 38 and about 5% for Hopkinton. And that's how the billing is.
And for us, this comes out of what we call wastewater enterprise fund.
I don't know the answer to that. I think, no, we have a budget through the town.
You have a budget, but I think.
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
I don't think of an enterprise.
No, I think the water and sewer enterprise fund
Oh, that's water and sewer, okay.
is through the DPW, I believe. That, which has nothing to do with us.
Okay, so the wastewater.
So each town funds where those monies come
So this
from.
is a budget for the town.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
So
I
so
think
the warrant article for 10.5 million, is that Westborough's portion of it?
No, and is that part of your presentation?
You'll go
That
through
is
it.
part of the
Okay.
presentation.
I just wanted a little
It's basically
background on the-
exactly what we just said. It's 57% Shrewsbury,
Of the
38% of the 10.5. It's broken up exactly. The annual billing is that way, and any borrowing is the same,
Yeah,
is the same.
so you appropriate out the borrowing.
Exactly. Exactly.
How often are the percentages updated? So if we borrowed in Shrewsbury's 50, you just said the percentage.
57.
If they're 58% when you borrow and 10 years from now the debt's still outstanding and they're 60% or 50%, does it change or is it fixed at the amount when the debt was issued?
It changes each
Changes,
year.
yeah.
Every
So
every year
it's actually the
on
debt service that you're obligated to, not the initial debt
Correct.
issuance. Okay.
Correct. Right. And Westborough Town Meeting decides whether we borrow or not. The other two towns have no say.
We're in
No
charge.
say.
It should be.
That's the way the agreement.
That's the way the intermunicipal agreement was crafted.
Because it's our plant and they
Yeah, the
participate.
plant's on our property.
Right,
Ah.
right. It's, yeah.
They
it's,
pay, but we decide,
Valuable asset.
like it.
without question. And I will say, I've been on the board for almost 26 years now, and I am in the business of dealing with waste and water treatment facilities. And I would venture to say, in the state of Massachusetts, we have one of the best, most efficiently operated plants I've ever seen. Award-winning. I mean, Veolia is awarded different categories every year, and safety being one of them. Knock on
30
wood.
years.
30 years without a lost time. I mean, we're fortunate to have an extremely qualified and excellent operator.
Sorry, can I ask one very basic, and I know this might sound silly, but how do you differentiate between the wastewater versus the sewer water? Sewer,
Sewer.
the sewer.
Sewer.
The sewer water.
It's the same thing.
Same
That's
stuff,
what,
right?
that's what we, wastewater is, right.
So I do get my sewer bills. Wouldn't those pay for this as well?
So sewer bills pay for both. I mean, they pay for
The
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 infrastructure to get you.
The sewer bill is I believe that funding is for the DPW to maintain your sewer infrastructure that feeds the plant.
Okay,
We
so this is purely the
we
plant.
treat what the towns
Now I get it.
send.
Sorry,
Okay.
I know.
No.
If you go to the back.
And what we treat goes into the Assabet River. Okay, we have influent which comes in from the towns, and the effluent that has been treated to the acceptable levels that the
Yep.
EPA and DEP set, and that feeds into the Assabet River, and those regulatory agencies decide how much influent per day we can put into the river.
Got it. So if there is,
In this book, in the back, you'll see, the budget table. There's sewer enterprise, and
Yep.
then there's wastewater treatment plant as a line,
Line
and
item.
that's where.
Right.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Yep, perfect. Please go ahead. Sorry.
So you can, yeah.
I'll go
right
through.
ahead. If there's any questions,
I thought it was good to have a
I'll
little background so we didn't
Yeah.
lose everybody.
Right.
on
Well,
the details
it's,
before they.
I'm
had
glad you asked,
bigger
because,
picture.
because I would venture to guess that 99% of the people in town have no clue what, even that there is a treatment plant.
And I guarantee you
let
we're
alone what
going to
it
get
does.
caught up in answering questions in about 10 minutes if we hadn't done this first.
Excellent.
I agree.
Yeah, I like having big picture first then. Go ahead.
Okay, so Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds and/or borrow the sum of $10,500,000 or such other amount as town meeting may approve for undertaking capital repairs and improvements to the wastewater treatment plant and engineering services associated therewith. So this article will pay for various improvements at the treatment plant, including but not limited to replacement of the ultraviolet influence slide gates, which is our disinfection system, grit screws located at the aerated grit chambers, which is when the sewage comes into the plant. It goes through these grit screws that remove grit, sand,
material that's in there. The grit classifier system, which sorts out the sand and disposes of it. The wet well exhaust fan, which keeps the fumes, which can cause corrosion away from the equipment. The existing US filter odor control unit, and the chemical feed systems. The headworks area gas detection system, select odor control dampers. All of these things are related to corrosion. If you have odor, you have methane, you have hydrogen sulfides, you're going to get corrosion. And relocation of the existing auto sampler, which is part of the overall headworks remodeling. We have to move the sampler. So work will also include building modifications to the headworks motor control center, control room, and replacements of the headworks motor control center and bar screen control panel. Most of that is due to the fact that the current MCC control panels, the electrical components of that motor control system do not meet current code. So they have to be replaced. Oops. So I don't know if you can see this. I do also have handouts, but this is basically the estimated project cost here, how we got to the 10.5 million. So, and these were engineering estimates from our contracted engineers, AECom. So basically, probable construction costs are mobilization and demobilization at 388,000. The actual construction, the headworks improvement, 3.85 million, which is the items that I just listed. And the electrical, which is a big component of this to bring the system up to current code, is 2.6 million. And then miscellaneous metals at 170,000, which is that outside staircase that we're going to have to put on to access the building. The total being 7.008. That is basic construction costs. Then how we get to the 10.5 is contingency. So owner's contingency. If there are any problems out there as we go along that we didn't anticipate, we'd like to have a little buffer, and recommended guidelines are 20%. Construction phase services, that's overseeing the construction, which would be the engineering company, 20%. The wastewater treatment plant board administration, nobody from the board receives any type of fees at all, but this 2.5% would cover any legal fees or printing or advertising or small items that might come up. Might not necessarily get spent, but you do like to have a little place setter in there. Owner's project manager, per state law, any project over $5 million, we are required to have a project manager. If it's a construction 149, section 149, that's estimated at 5%. And that brings the total to 10.337, and our ask is 10.5. So if you haven't seen the plant, this is what it looks like. As we said, it's a beautiful plant. That's right. A wonderful asset for the town to have. Certainly.
Where is it?
Turnpike, 238 Turnpike.
Is it?
It's behind Westborough Plaza.
Okay.
So these are some of the areas that need to be replaced. The building, the headworks area was originally built in 1987. So we're dealing with equipment that's about 40 years old, which is probably about 10 years past its lifetime. So we've done well to get this far, but to replace the two existing slide gates, you can see those are the gates there. They have a lot of corrosion associated with them. And the electric motor actuators also are similar in that there's corrosion. Replace the two existing grit screws. We can't take a picture of the grit screws because they're underwater, so they're at the bottom of this tank. So we will take these tanks offline. They'll do an inspection, look at the tanks. Do they need to be recoated? We don't know what type of corrosion may exist within the tank, and to replace the grit screws that are there to bring them up to date and inspect and repair the grit chamber if we need to. Replace the grit classifier system, which is right there. That's the system that sorts out the dirt and the sand and the trash and different parts of the wastewater that comes in, and the associated piping. And again, you'll see that, this is in kind of tough shape. It works, but it's near the end of its useful life. The odor control scrubber and the chemical feed replacement. Replace the failed existing US odor control unit with a Evocla odor control scrubber. This adds redundancy to our existing system. Right now we have 2 odor control units. If one goes offline for service, we only have one. I don't know if you're aware that 2 summers ago in 2024, We did have to take one of the scrubbers off for service, and we did have quite a few neighbors calling with odor complaints. So this gives us a third unit that if one, we normally would use one all the time. If we need to take one offline, we've got spares. So that will give us some redundancy that we don't have. Replace the chemical feed system to the existing and the new odor control system, and to demolish the obsolete odor control system that's there now. And then finally, this is the MCC panels, the electrical components, the cabinets. We're going to have to meet current code, which includes a new egress, because part of the problem is you can't have methane gas build up in there. So we can't open a door from the grid chamber area into that room. So we have to build another way in that's not near anything that generates odors. So that will have to change. Replacement of the corroding headworks panels, fire screen control panels, replace the failed gas detection system, which is there now and is not working. Replace the wet well exhaust fan. Some of the odor control dampers do work, some don't, so replace the ones that are currently not working and relocate the existing auto sampler. And that's the bulk of the work. Encompasses the 10.5 million.
Perfect. Any questions?
So there's a lot of work that's being done here. Is there any reason that this wasn't, I don't know, 2 million, 2.1 million every year for 5 years? Like, why is it all coming due at this point?
We have an ongoing capital plan. We have a 5-year capital plan.
Yep.
Right now, we're finishing up our most recent capital project, which was 5.7 million to replace the rotors, which is the
Yeah.
pieces of equipment that rotate in the tanks to create air and oxygen for the microorganisms to do the work that they have to do. So this was basically, as part of our capital plan, this is our next project. So we have done ongoing projects. We're completing the replacement of the rotors, and now our next targeted area is the headworks.
That's interesting. If the rotors were $5 million, I think that was the $4.25 million we approved in October 22.
That you approved that it was in addition to money that was still there. So you added 4.25 to,
Got it.
we had a total of 12. Yeah, that was approved.
And there was money, it was a previous project that there was still money left over from.
Okay, thank you.
And then we piggybacked it with the 4.2, we said 4.2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And this is a question, I guess, for John, but John, the money for the wastewater treatment that's in this budget book, is that collected with the sewer fees? So it's proportional to, to your water usage, actually, is what it's proportional, because that's what the sewer. So this is paid for by basically sewer users.
Yes,
People who are on the sewer.
yes, it's paid for through the user fees. And similar to any other borrows, we borrow as we need. We don't just run out there and borrow $10.5 million. It's as they need, as they request. We speak every year and talk about what the plan is. And as Darlene mentioned, this is a long-term thing. It's not that you do $2 million a year. It's you approve the borrow for the project, and it will take years to complete. So they do a good job of forecasting and communicating with us so we know when and how to manage the debt.
This is a 2 to 3 year project.
Because we have to appreciate that you can't ever be offline.
Right.
You have to do this work
Yep.
while you're somehow keeping everything running. Like changing the oven while you're still cooking. That's a pretty remarkable feat in itself.
But that speaks to the operator. And you looked at, the condition of the equipment, and the reason that's still working is because of the operator. I mean, they do a lot of in-house maintenance on a regular basis. They have a maintenance budget, and they have a lot of skilled workers that can do this stuff. But this is beyond life expectancy, and it's falling apart.
And also to that effect, we don't borrow till we need it, but also if some of the contingencies not needed, it's never.
Exactly.
It's never.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
So
never
the amount that
appropriated.
goes to the sewer ratepayer will be the principal and interest of what somehow for that year, I guess, right? So, because it's ultimately spread out over, what, a 20-year loan or something? Yeah.
So I guess just the debt side of the wastewater treatment plant is a bit different than just what you see in the budget. The budget there is covered by the ratepayers. The debt side is still covered by the ratepayers, but it's because the sewer treatment plant is in Westborough. We carry the debt technically within our debt ceiling and our debt budget. The loans are within Westborough. And then what happens is that cost gets apportioned to the community's ratio. In fact, so what'll happen is the water and sewer fees that come in will go towards that portion of the town debt budget, just getting shifted. It's all, on the books. But Westborough pays its portion towards that from the fees that come in indirectly through the enterprise. It's, a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, so somebody has to figure that out. Is that your department that figures out how much to charge Shrewsbury and all that?
We work with, Chris and I work to set the actual water and sewer rates. The amount per town is dictated by the agreement, and then it's based upon flow. Darlene does the calculations, looking at the flow from the last year. They get credited based upon flow and the proportion that's adjusted.
Yeah,
Cool.
just like I said, this year it's 57.6%.
Yeah.
And, so, I mean, the Westborough, so the number that's in this book of wastewater treatment plant, is that, that's just Westborough's portion
So,
of it, or is that?
if you're looking at the
about
budget portion-
$6 million or something this year?
That's the operating budget
Yeah.
for the plant in its entirety. And then bills get issued from that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we actually pay $3 million or something.
Even
Of it,
Yes.
right, two, or 200, whatever. The 38% is.
Yeah. Not unlike, ASIPA gives us the whole budget, but we're only paying our portion of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, it's all good stuff. Sounds like an important thing to do. That stuff definitely looks like it could use some help.
And that big tank down on the left there, that's the rotors that are being replaced now. It's almost, that project is probably 95% done. That supplies the air. It lets the bugs do the job.
And you don't have to shut part of the plant down to do these?
Yeah, we do.
That you do
Yeah,
have to
we
shut
do
down.
part of the plant down. You do it a little at a time.
Yeah, we
Shut it down.
did a certain number of rotors at,
Usually 2 or 3 can come offline.
right,
Those can be
Oh, okay.
replaced, and they go back on, and then the next.
and 2 or 3 more come offline.
Which is why sometimes these projects take a couple of years,
Yeah.
because you can't shut the whole plant down.
Yeah, I would imagine that drives some of your construction labor costs too, because it's not like, you can go in and demo and then
Right.
rebuild. You gotta be.
Right. It's not like building a new plant.
Right.
Yeah, it's like
Sure.
coordination.
Tricky
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep. I guess the only comment I would have is that probably if this was identified a couple of years back, we could have used some ARPA funds maybe for this. Could we? If
Could you-
Well, and not
Uh,
use them for something else. I guess if you had something you didn't want us to have spent ARPA funds on.
That said, this dollar amount versus the
Yeah.
available ARPA funds, right? I
very,
mean, this
very minimal.
ARPA funds certainly wouldn't have covered
Like,
it, right?
for
It'd have
instance,
covered a fifth.
We spent $1 million on something that dechlorinate or chlorinates or whatever. There was some
Just something
water
to the water.
treatment stuff that
Something.
did get ARPA funds.
Yeah.
But we didn't get this, and again, it's split amongst 3 towns anyway.
What's an ARPA fund?
ARPA.
American Rescue Plan,
No,
We
ARPA,
get-
ARPA funds.
AR.
Okay,
Oh.
yeah.
ARPA.
Yep.
We got
All right.
about, during COVID, we got about 5 point
Yeah,
something
5 million.
5.7 million.
Yeah. Any other-
But I do remember Rod telling us that this was coming.
Yeah, Rod was our liaison
Yeah.
for a couple of years, and, he
Tell
was,
us, oh, yeah,
he
there's
was
some big
at our
stuff
monthly
coming.
meetings typically, yeah. And I think he learned a lot, and he added a lot. I mean, I think he's an engineer by trade, and and he was able to, ask some good questions.
So will we have another liaison?
You
Yes, at
We
the
have
moment.
one, I think. I don't remember who it is, but
Nor do we.
like I said, we've had a lot of moving pieces. We've had,
We're tricky
we had
because we
four-
meet,
four
we
new
meet.
members this year.
Yeah, we meet the second Wednesday of the month at 8:15 in the morning. Because we need to be there when the plan is, the operators are there, they're not there around the clock, and,
I am.
Oh, Prashant?
there you go.
There you go.
You had to get
Now
up
you
the
know the
list to
face.
check and it was you.
Waze it.
I just wanted to
You can access it from Turnpike Road or Meadow Road.
But now I know that 8:15 is when I have to
Should
pay
I
my
add you to the
attention.
calendar invite?
Absolutely, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Prashant was taking over the DPW and this from Rod, and then he became chair, so I don't.
Yeah.
Still
Well,
want to do
yeah.
all those things too, but
Yep.
We do have someone from the selectmen that shows up, which is.
Oh, okay.
And we went, I'll be honest with you, I've been 26 years, I've been doing it. It's been few and far between that anybody's really paid attention.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's important because we have a fairly large budget.
Yeah.
It's a very important facility, and,
When it runs well, it's easy not to worry.
what's that?
When it runs well, it's easy not to worry.
And knock on wood, it more often than
Keeps
not,
going.
it certainly runs well.
Keeps the noise
People
low.
don't know where you are, it's a good.
Yeah, that's almost a good thing. Yeah, you're kind of under the radar, Yeah.
It's one
Makes
of the few
sense.
things, though, that the moment it does not run well, it
Well, we
quickly
hear
goes
about
into
it, trust me.
crisis,
We have some avid neighbors that,
I'm sure.
yeah.
Awesome. No, great work and thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate
Yeah,
you
thanks.
sitting through all this.
Yes.
Learned a lot.
Yeah, look.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you, darling.
Don't walk under any
Yeah.
trees.
Yeah.
Widow makers.
Yeah, we used to call that in scouts, those things, but I didn't know that was a, conservation department term.
Same. I thought it was interesting to hear it used in a little bit more professional setting
I
than.
guess it's common parlance.
What, Widowmakers?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I've always heard that.
Well, we have, but it's a little different to hear. You hear a lot of things you would say in this room. Anyway,
It's a tree.
I thought you was triple
a
A.
tree that's about to fall on your
Yeah.
head while you're sleeping and you're.
Yeah.
Hey,
We always
Yeah,
tell
so
scouts, look up.
we've got a hard copy of that presentation.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure.
much appreciated. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, she wasn't sure if we were going to be able to.
Yeah. One feedback I would just suggest, I don't know if others noted that or not, but in the town meeting, if you are presenting, you may want to relook at the font in the PPT. I think that's a little hard to see. I don't know if I only saw that way or others saw it as well, but I thought that the font could probably be a bit more
In the
easy to
entire
read in the entire presentation.
Probably
Yeah.
in the
Well, the
chart.
numbers for sure.
The numbers for sure,
Yeah.
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 Also, we were not looking at it in slideshow mode. It was
Right.
more.
Yeah.
So I think in town meeting, it'd be.
It's
slideshow.
better than the
Hopefully, but yeah, you may want to
Hard see in town
revisit
meeting
that.
anyway. But yeah.
Awesome.
Same way I did things. She did it
Was it from here or was it remotely?
remote.
It was remote.
Yeah, so maybe it came in different, but anyway, it was,
No, that's good.
we have
I
needs
got it.
now too.
But
think that, thank you.
Thank you.
But
Thank
I
you.
will say, the owner's project manager usually more than pays for themselves, so in
Yeah, we
our
did-
case, so
we
in
did-
our case.
I think it's between 12 and 15 years ago, we did a fairly substantial upgrade. We had energy department, we had to start treating for phosphorus removal. And so we had to put in a whole new process for that building. And it was a $54 million project. And we had an owner's project manager. That was fantastic. It made all the difference in the world. I mean, project that size, we came in under budget and ahead of schedule. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that
Sorry,
he was there.
we use the mic. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you don't.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
No, you're right, we're doing the same thing in the library, and those people keep track of everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Thanks.
good.
Bye-bye.
What's the slide?
Oh, that's
don't
what
know.
I'm sharing my screen right now, which is the.
Ah,
Can
Back
it
to
go,
the business.
can it go over there?
no,
No?
Can it go over there?
Are we gonna see that?
I think
Just the-
different
You have to
ones
join the
go to
meeting?
different ones unless Prashant goes stand over
No,
there.
it
They
cannot
can
go over
That's why
there.
we're paying for those AV.
Let me see if I can share my screen and that helps over here.
Oh, you're doing it through the Zoom meeting.
I don't know if that way it works or not.
You never know.
Do you want us to go over there?
Anyway, do we have to read all that?
Okay, I think,
Skip.
Tell us what we're doing.
so, yep,
What do you want to talk about next?
awesome. I think what I want to do is, just because we have a lot of minutes at the moment that are pending approval, I want to get that out of the way and then we can come back to the budget.
Okay.
So can we vote, if anyone has any objections, let me know, but can we vote all of them together? I'm assuming all of you have reviewed it.
The only thing I would say is maybe some of the members who weren't here in October or June, so we might want to vote
Yeah.
those separately.
Okay,
Yeah,
So
'cause
they
I
could
would abstain.
abstain if they want. And then the other more newer ones, we could maybe vote in a block, but you want me to try that?
Yeah, do the oldest one first.
Okay. I move we accept the minutes of June 23rd and October 21st,
Bradley, second.
2025 for both of those.
so this is June 23rd and October 21st, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussions?
Thanks, Walter, for figuring out our super old mint. That's all.
Yep. Okay. Ahuja, yes.
Angelakis abstained.
Beth?
Beth?
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
O'Day, yes.
So Roja is not on the call anymore. She had to leave.
She had a leave.
Yep.
So,
So
She would have abstained.
yeah, well, there's 7
6-0-0.
of us total. Beth didn't vote.
It's
Beth
just
may have been on
6-0-0.
mute.
I mean,
Beth, you are there?
Yeah.
No, she would one abstention, right? Or did you?
Well, I
that's right.
abstained.
She did.
Okay.
5-0-1.
501.
What's the
Okay.
next one?
I move we accept the minutes of January 29th, February 9th, and February 12th, 2026 in this case.
Bradley, second.
Any comments?
Wait a minute, say that one again, I'm sorry.
January 29th,
I wasn't here.
February 9th, and February 12th.
29th, I'd have to abstain.
So February,
Did
So
you
let's-
Or
watch
is
the
that
meeting?
Is that, wait a minute.
January
Watch the
29th is the
meeting.
budget summit. You were there
Was
on
that the
summit.
budget summit?
Yes.
Yes, I was there.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay. And the other dates, I'm sorry.
February 9th, February
12th.
Okay.
You're definitely here for this.
I had a question on February 12th.
That's good.
Glad we got this out of the way.
I think it was February 12th. What, you got my name really well for the police chief as far as me disagreeing with the mobile police command. But didn't Terry have some comments also? Do you remember,
There
Terry?
were none specifically mentioned in the draft. She did comment, but it wasn't, there, some of those, when I looked at them, they were misattributed because it first said, I think, some of them were by first name. The AI was doing some strange stuff.
Really?
Yeah, because at one point I started calling people by their first name.
The AI did?
Yeah. In the minutes before I edited.
Yeah, well, it captured you, Prashant, and it captured quite a few
Yeah, and
people.
that first
Yeah.
comment, it was attributed to someone else, but I remember you said it, so. it
Yeah,
changed it
no,
to
that was me,
Angelakis.
but I thought Terry also had
Terry
some
had some
comments that,
concerns and questions, but
yeah.
It captured,
yeah.
at the
Okay.
end, the
The
motion
comments
go
are
with.
not
But the
captured
comments, I
or-
think that where it said members said things about that were seemed like about right, so it isn't necessary actually to have minutes that attribute everybody's comment to a
Correct.
person. In fact, we generally would it in the past just said comments included or something like
Because I
that.
remember Terry had
Okay.
said, I hope I don't get arrested.
But I didn't,
Well, there were some
Yeah,
jokes
well-
made which it captured. That joke was made, and I removed it, saying that no, we don't want any jokes to be in the
Yeah,
minutes
yeah.
of meeting.
no joke.
Because it may not be one.
We
now
wouldn't
I
want
hope I
people to
don't
think
get
we're having
arrested.
fun around here.
What?
They can watch it though.
Gotta watch to find out.
Yeah, maybe in future we can eliminate some of that detail.
Okay.
You know,
It makes it a little
address
bit
the
easier
specific
too.
comments and just.
Because now I'm afraid to see the chief.
I mean, we could park this. I could generalize because that's what we have done in some of
No,
the
that's
previous
okay.
minutes,
That's all right.
which
And
is
keep going.
keep
That's
going.
We don't have
Yeah,
time to
no,
do
I mean,
that
it
part
was-
and stuff.
We were already on TV, so it's no,
It's not like it's untrue. I just think,
There's a-
yeah, in the future, you can be more vague about.
The minutes.
You want to have specific names when someone votes against something, because then you remember who voted against it, but the comments are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Plus, I think any motions that are made, who made the motion, who seconded it,
Yeah.
that absolutely has to have the names as well
Yes.
as the roll call.
And
Okay.
since we're doing roll call vote, you have to say if who did, 'cause otherwise it's not. We're lazy. We don't actually say these 6 people said yes and these 2 people said no. We just say the 2 no's and the 6 are the other people. But
Yep.
okay.
It saves typing.
All right,
That was it?
yep.
Okay, let's go.
let's go for the vote.
Go for it.
Ahuja, yes.
Angelakis, yes.
You got it.
Beth?
She's not
She's-
responsive.
All right. Bradley, yes.
Clap yes.
Leslie, yes.
O'Day, yes.
The minutes for,
Yes, in the back.
There she is.
thank you, Beth.
All right, so
Sorry.
that's 7
Oh,
7-0
7:00.
7:00.
for those
Okay.
3.
Are we all caught up now?
We are all caught up. Thank
okay,
you.
Wanna
well
bring-
done.
Bring up the secretary theory.
Yes.
Could do that if you want, but anyway, doing the minutes is like become a large burden. It's also fallen on Prashant lately, trying to figure it out. So we have not been able to get our town to yet find somebody. It's been difficult in the past to find somebody. So for our vast listening audience out there, as well as any members, we are looking for a board secretary. You do minutes for about 30 meetings a year, 28-ish. And it is a paid position, and even if someone on the board can also be paid actually to do the minutes. It's the one
Yeah, even this
position on this
committee.
board that you can. And it's a town position, part-time, so no benefits, but there are COLAs and steps and all that other stuff, and pays in that range of the $20 to $25 an hour kind of thing. And a typical meeting, from our experience with our last secretary, who got better at it, after the first few months, and the names, and it becomes easier. But it's roughly about 3 to 4 hours per meeting, between listening to a meeting, writing minutes, any edits that come back, and then posting it with the town clerk. So that's sort of the job.
Is that how the minutes are done? You listen to the meeting?
The way I did it when I wrote them for the committee was I took notes on the votes as we went, but I would generally go back and you watch it on Westborough TV. And that's why for a person in the public that would be interested in this, it's an asynchronous job. You can
watch the
do
meeting
this
anytime.
on
Yeah.
Tuesday morning, or you can do it at midnight, because you can watch Westborough TV to take the minutes. And once you know the characters, it's quicker and quicker. Or nowadays, there's even these AI enhancements which let you get half of it written for you,
Right.
which I didn't have when I did it. Anyway, it's well worth mentioning, just because we have new committee members that might not be aware that that opportunity existed, or you can volunteer to do the minutes for free like I did. But you might know a friend or a spouse who's looking to make a few $1,000 a year on and as we know, heavily intensive February, March, and September, October, and other than that, it's really pretty mellow gig. But anyway, we wanted to mention it because we'd like to find additional.
It
help
doesn't
there.
look like the job is posted on the
Yeah, did they post
website.
it?
This, oh, for the secretary?
Yeah.
It's not posted.
It does not appear to be posted. There, it looks like there's 3 administrative assistant positions posted, but they're sort of the department administrative assistants. So we might reach out to Kim.
Okay.
Yeah, it's worth reaching.
I was gonna
out.
go
I
ahead
know
and share it on
Christy is
Facebook
away
and-
this week, but she said she would get back to us because Prashant had asked whether it's a possibility of having someone who's working for the town help out with it. Usually most of us admins have schedules, so that's not,
Okay.
it's hard to fit us in because we become big pains in the
But-
butt for 2 months and then we're not around the rest of the time. So,
Right. Perfect. Thank you. But yeah, I think you mentioned board, it's open to any one of us as well. If any one of us volunteers to do it,
yeah.
you can apply as well. Okay. All right. Then I think our meetings are lined up. Today we had the wastewater conservation, then we have citizen petition and school coming on Monday. So few more meetings, and then obviously we have to finish up the voting on the operating. So there are 2 things, articles and operating budget. Are we good to vote on any of the articles today?
Regarding the articles, what about, back to the police? So we said, we didn't vote, we needed more information.
Right, we
So-
have to,
Are we gonna, is the
Yes.
police chief, if we requested for him to come?
Okay, so I emailed him, but I just sort of barely emailed him because I
He
forgot.
was away this week. He's on vacation.
He was on vacation this week, so he hasn't responded to my email yet. That's what I meant to say.
Good one.
same for me as well. The town manager is on leave.
We still have several weeks left to.
Yeah, I did email him and ask if he can come in, so we'll want to
We
wait on that.
covered a lot of good
Okay.
ground last week, I thought.
Yep.
Yeah, we
A
did.
lot of votes, it's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But I think, sorry,
Yeah, no, you're,
Go
just
for it.
looking at the efficiency,
Yeah.
I think the planning meeting happened on 9th of Feb 9th. Could we, and I know last week we postponed saying we need more time to review them. So have we reviewed and can we vote those today?
which one? I
The-
thought we'd vote the ones that maybe the people that came.
No, the planning ones, the Feb 9th planning articles, the zoning changes, the meeting we had on the
The,
I'm not ready for
the
those.
billboard,
the billboard.
Let's see.
the public
I don't think the
forums
public
haven't
meetings
happened yet.
happened yet for that.
Yeah, I think we
Okay.
should wait for the public
Public
forums.
forums.
Do we
Yeah.
know if that billboard is in a residential area?
It's not. It's,
No.
No.
Yeah, she showed where it was.
Yeah,
It's
I
on
couldn't
Route-
picture it.
Picture getting on Route 495 on.
And
at-
I-90.
At Route 9, heading south towards the Mass Pike. It's on the right.
So those 2 we should wait, Prashant, until the public.
Okay, so there's
Public
no
hearing? Okay.
people living there,
No,
but
but
there's
you have to look
businesses.
at it if you're on the.
Yeah, okay. And you don't want to look at it, I
Well,
know.
that's Walter. I'm just saying is, no, it wouldn't be next to anybody's house. It's in the, it's woods there, right?
Yeah.
I think. Or industrial. In fact, all their rules prevent,
Correct.
if there's somebody who lived there, you couldn't. have done
Yeah, there were a whole bunch of rules about like what could abut it and how far, and
Oh,
so I mean,
okay.
I think it's pretty well designed to prevent it, a billboard in your
Yeah, can you
backyard.
Imagine like your backyard, like, yeah, that would-
So do you want to vote for tonight, or do we do the budget? Or do we do that next time, or what?
I mean, I would think if we feel prepared to vote the folks that came in tonight, that would
Yeah,
make sense
I
to me.
was-
Yeah.
Everyone is speaking my mind today.
Ooh, that's
I
a
love it.
dangerous place to be.
love it.
Okay, so
Let's go.
as far as I know, the first article would be Article 10A. I think the wastewater, let me just see where the wastewater,
Community preservation plan, Bowman conservation
Bowman.
area.
yeah, wastewater is later on. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a cap. Okay.
Okay, got it.
This is 10A.
Uh, So, let me just find the warrant. Got my budget table up, sorry. Lost somebody's eardrum.
So just for the phone, Beth, we are voting on the Article 10A.
Yeah, Okay.
Okay, so I move the AFC recommends the town meeting that we transfer from the Community Preservation Fund $25,500, or, yeah, $25,500 for the purpose of Bowman Conservation Area infrastructure improvement.
Bradley, second.
Any comments, questions?
Comments? I mean, I think it's a good use of the community preservation funds, and with that, I thought one of the things was the reason for picking that particular area this year too, is that their bridge is finally going to get replaced, which will get a lot more traffic in that area, because that bridge is how you get there from sort of the Sandra Pond side, not the other side, and so it would get a lot more use.
Awesome. Let's begin the voting. Ahuja, yes.
Angelakis, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
O'Day, yes.
It's 7-0.
7-0, yes.
So,
Saroja,
yeah,
Chris isn't here.
I know.
Okay, let me find the, I
17.
guess,
17.
it's 13A, I think is the next one,
Oh, okay.
the land management.
Yep.
Okay. I move that the town, I move that the AFC recommends that town meeting votes in favor of transfer of of $90,000 of free cash for the purpose of creating land management plans.
Bradley, second.
Any comments, questions? I just had one comment. I think a lot of these study articles that, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but the ones that we are having for the study, I think a couple of them we have already requested for more information. I think this is another one where I feel like the focus is more upon, okay, how do we get to figure out the costs that we need to spend versus figuring out that for this 90,000, that how much do we need to have the land? How much, yes, we would get the vote from the town stating whether they want this land management costs or not. But then I think this article probably should be saying also in terms of the goals that how much of the land should we really be having, and not just like, okay, what do we do with this land? How much of cost will it take to maintain, and then spend more to maintain those or hire more people to maintain those? I think we have to step back a bit and look at how much do we, like, I'm not saying we own a lot or we own less. I'm saying that from all the other fiscal pressures that we are having in terms of the community center, in terms of the land that we own, in terms of the land, the B vault, the easements that we are building, I think it requires a step back study for us to say, okay, how much can we really, manage? And that should be where the study should go. So for that reasons, I would say this article should either be revised to appropriately mention the goal, to say that we will identify along with the costs, because I feel everything is just related to now how much do we spend more to get more expenditure done. So that's me.
I thought they said that part of it was to generate, not quotes, but basic ideas of how much things would cost.
Yeah, but that's not, I think Prashant's going for a strategy, a plan for what we want as a town for how much growth we have. And I'm almost thinking that question gets answered by a bunch of other things, like our the other projects we have, the other plans we have for the town in terms of where we want to spend our money. And the fact is, the determination of what we want as a town is something that's assessed at the time that somebody decides to actually bring it forward and the town says yes or no. So I think what really drew me to this is that the realization about a year ago that we have a ton of different places that we have no line of sight to how much we have a plan to try and stand these open spaces up. And the thing that registered with me this evening is that we're spending extra money on some of these things to make them accessible. But I went to our website and there's no way you can tell something's accessible until you get there. So just the entire notion that we have hundreds of acres, that we have 50 miles, that we have trails, and there is no plan to understand how that impacts what we have done. We've just willy-nilly purchased properties left and right. And I think that's what this spoke to in the capital plan. That's where I drove it. That's where I drove the questioning in the capital plan. And to me, this seems like the right way to spend for a much bigger piece of, planning for the rest for a conservation area.
An understanding.
Hello?
Yeah, I think Beth mentioned the
Yeah, I mean,
understanding.
Just to give a general overview of understanding.
So, yeah, and I think it's very important, and I think you've brought this up. People have come, since I've been here anyway, with proposals of acquiring new open space, the cost of maintenance, the cost of, because we can get funds sometimes from Walk-Up Robinson Trust or this or Sudbury Valley trustees or these people or that people. But like you said, you have to at some point figure out how you're going to take care of them. And in the past, it was small enough, and you did a lot of this with the land trust members, taking care of it. But it's probably getting a little big for that, as they're alluding to. Also, do you need, sometimes having open space for open space sake is okay too, without it having trails and other stuff on it.
Yeah.
Because it still gives you your green space, still gives you wildlife habitat, and you don't have to maintain it. So, yeah, I think have to be careful. We can't create 600 acres of pristine parkland, right? Or at least the budgets allow for that. So it would be interesting to see this report in terms of what is the intention for all these various places.
I mean, I feel like the reality is they come back every year incrementally doing something, and every time we say, well, where's your plan?
Yeah, here's a.
And so now they're asking to build a plan, and we've repeatedly said, seems like a good idea, but don't you have a plan? Why do you keep asking us for money? Well,
Right.
because these things cost money, so now they're asking to build a plan. It seems very responsive to sort of
Yeah.
what we've really asked them for year over year.
Right, sort of like if the DPW just randomly bought vehicles and supposed to, he can show you a plan for the next,
Right.
10 years.
Because we know
This is what
DPW
we're
needs
gonna do,
vehicles,
and-
right? We know the
Well,
maintenance is necessary.
So I guess what I'm trying to understand is that will this study give us enough information? Because what I saw on that presentation was quoting stuff from the master plan that we need to have this, we need to have more open spaces, and this will give us an opportunity to figure out what do we spend on these open spaces to make more use of them. So to me it seemed more like, okay, what do we spend more on this versus so I guess what I'm looking for also from this study to earn my vote is that that if we get these costs, will we be able to in future compare these numbers of costs with future acquisitions? That okay, it's not just about the cost of acquisition of a land, but it's also about the fact that how much do you need to spend to be able to maintain this particular land. And if that is what we can get out of this study, all for it.
I don't know that that's specifically part of it, although I will say 100% the fact that we have never asked those questions in advance of these other purchases is something we need to start doing. As a committee, we need to, even if it isn't part of the plan. Asking questions about the maintenance, what capital opportunities exist on the property, what is the opportunity for ADA accessibility. All of these are things we should ask in advance. The other thing, rec department has said this before, and it frustrates them no end, that open space does not permit recreation. So we go into these plans where the Conservation Commission is responsible for evaluating properties, but the rec would love to be able to use an open field for soccer. Well, it's not approved because that's not part of the plan. And if we have a plan that goes about managing our land,
Correct.
we should be asking these questions. We should have rec at the table if there is a space that seems appropriate. Just those are things that don't exist right now, that if we codify into plans, that I think that there's an opportunity to do a better job of. And in the end, it'll always be the town voting whether or not a piece of property feels like it's worth it. Because, I think it's also like Walk Around Robinson, they can spend their money on some of the maintenance projects. We don't have to spend their money on $1 million for a piece of land. Their charter permits them to spend it on maintenance. Like, why aren't we talking about that? Again, that should be part of the plan. Not for everything. We're not going to just bleed them dry, but it should be part of the conversation if there's capital opportunities that come up. Maybe they underwrite 10% of it or 50% of it. So all of those things to me seem like an opportunity to be more formalized in the way we deal with our open space. And I think this planning documents, the LPMs, so it's LPMs, different plans for each of the different areas. Those to me seem like they could be well informed by having things that we should be asking about the open space.
And further, with the new CPC, the community preservation, if you were to acquire a new property and you use CPC funds for it, you can maintain it then using CPC funds. So those are other nuances that we can't do with the old properties.
Yep.
But yeah, maintenance should be just like when you buy a car, maintenance is part of buying a new car
Yeah.
too, eventually, right? And
So Prashant, do you want to hold off on
there's
voting?
also an
I'm sorry.
advantage to, sometimes we buy open space because then it also isn't developed space necessarily. So,
I'm
Open to
I'm
keep
embarrassed to say I'm not familiar with this area, but do a lot of people use like the Bowman Conservation Area? They do. Okay,
a lot of trails, everyone's behind Mill Pond.
really?
Yeah, Milburn and Bowman
Yeah,
is one of the
at
popular ones.
Bowman, the one at Libby property.
And I would say yes, asterisk. And I say asterisk because a lot of people is a vague statement that any department that's vested will say is a lot of people when we're a town of 20,000 people and we get people from other places coming in. So we don't actually do a great job of measuring these things. But in the case of open space, it's very hard to do that. It's not a thing that we're failing to do. It's just very hard to do.
But if you go where you live, if you go around Chauncey
Mm-hmm.
in a nice fall day, there's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
But what's a lot of people for an area? Like a lot of people in Chauncey is different for a lot of people. So I'm just saying,
just saying it
it's
is popular.
well
Well, you got
used.
the soccer fields there too.
Yeah, we have.
No, I
lots
mean,
of-
not ignoring the kids on the field. I'm talking about the actual trail
The
where
actual
you
trail
hike
around,
around
yeah.
the lake.
It's super accessible. too.
Clearly trail.
So I think to your point, Andrew, I agree with you that yes, we need to have an asterisk, but how do we have that asterisk? The way to have that asterisk is either we mention something in the comments saying that yes, as AFC we approve it, but we expect that these kind of studies will give us more information about the usage of the land in the future, about any acquisition of the land, with how much it also takes to maintain, just what I mentioned. So as long as we can let the town know that this is how the AFC is thinking about it, so that when you vote on any future acquisitions, this study will help you, benefit you by letting you know that, okay, this is the cost to maintain as well, which you should consider in any future voting.
Would it make sense to ask for a sample land management plan that already exists for something else? Like something that would give us an idea of what they're asking for?
It's a great idea.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah, it would help clarify.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's working with conservatives? Probably me.
That would be neat.
Aha!
Oh, that's bad.
Thank you, Beth.
So you want me to go back to them?
ask her if they could send us a sample land management plan that representative of sort of what they envision one of these to be.
Yeah.
Since that
That would be perfect.
organization probably has published them for other people,
Yes.
I'm guessing that
Right.
they could provide one or something on a, so we get just a better idea.
Thank you. I absolutely would.
Okay.
Great point.
So no vote on that, so we're
No,
gonna,
no, no. Okay. All right, Article 16 would be next, which would be treatment
Wastewater
plant.
treatment repairs. Yeah.
At least numerically next. Okay, I move the AFC recommend town meeting borrow $10,500,000 for the purpose of improvements to Westborough treatment plant.
Bradley, second.
Any questions, comments?
That's so much money. It's so much money. That scares me. But
Would it scare
They-
you not
they-
to have
yeah.
a treatment?
well, no, it scares not, but, you know,
They borrowed 4 million in
yeah,
21, they borrowed 4 million in 22.
yeah,
They take care of all of
It's
our
been
water.
5 years.
this is 10. But
Yeah, it's a loan, so you pay for
Yep.
over 20 years of sewer fees, so
yeah,
it's part of it, but yeah. But that's the majority, I mean, there's a cost where they pay the operator to run the plant every
you know,
year,
I
but,
understand all that. It's just so much.
so you weren't here for
So,
any of the
John, how did
school
these
buildings,
loans
huh?
work?
Is what?
How do these loans work? How much is it costing us, these loans?
Well,
nothing.
yeah, right. It depends on the stages in the borrow. We're about to borrow 66 million in short term, and hopefully we'll have a rate under 3%. Yeah,
I think
I
it'd be
mean-
fair to say that this would be at least 15 or
Yeah, I
17
mean-
million dollars in, when you add interest.
When you add interest, yeah,
Depending on interest.
over the life of it. Hopefully they won't need it all. Hopefully we'll continue to make pay down, so we're not borrowing it over, the extreme. If we don't bond it over 20 years, we can have 13 years, or we can flip it within short-term borrows. So it depends on the strategy and where interest rates go over time.
And Shrewsbury pays us for their portion.
Yeah, Hopkinton, Shrewsbury, and Westborough are
Okay.
the three parties to
So
the
we use their
agreement.
money to pay the loan.
Well, the sewer
They
fees.
pay
Right,
55%.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the loan.
right. It's
And it-
apportioned amongst the towns.
Technically, it's the ratepayers who pay it, not the
Correct.
taxpayers.
Correct.
Which is huge overlap, Venn
Yeah.
diagram, I don't know, but
Yeah, it's a unique situation where it's a three-town
But I think,
situation, but we manage the debt. They don't have a say in how we.
yeah, and I think everything that they touch is like I said, there's two $4 million asks, now there's 10 million.
Yeah.
Like the fact is, if you looked at their loan history, it's not just what we're taking on, because stuff is falling off
Falling
as
off,
well.
exactly.
So I guess we don't have a great line of sight. Like the $10 million may seem like the rates will suddenly skyrocket, but it's not really, because it's being split up with other towns,
Right,
contingent
okay.
upon the annual usage spread. Plus, it's also other things are falling off of their debt at the same time. So I guess I don't know how that we make a more informed perspective on the ratepayer cost that would be a burden for this.
Yeah, it's difficult because Sorry, go ahead, Beth.
I was gonna say, occasionally, they just get mandates from the state that they have to comply with, as well as the normal maintenance. So I don't think they can have a really long-term plan.
I think they do a good job of having a long-term capital improvement plan so that they can keep up with it, so that you don't have the crises where the plant goes
Yeah.
down. It's one of those things. It's a big number. It's a big plant. It's what you take on as a town when you create the infrastructure. You don't really have it. I don't want to say you
Replacing
don't
that
have a choice,
electrical
but
panel, if they do it proactively this way versus one day, it goes up, you gotta keep that plant running.
yeah.
No, I want my wastewater treated.
Is there a way to try to articulate for the taxpayers what a rate impact could be?
It's difficult relative to this one component as it goes into the rates, because the rates fluctuate each year based upon use. So it would be hard for me to break out this one component with all the different variables that go into specifically. I mean, you could look at what the impact would be in cost in a year, but how that would translate into individual rates, because you also have the water and the sewer. So there's three components to the rate. There's water, there's sewer, and there's wastewater. And so you have a lot of different moving parts when you start talking about the infrastructure and contribution of each.
Right, both these
Yeah.
are lumped under what we call our sewer part of our water and sewer bill. But,
Right.
and some of that amount is also based on what we want to invest in keeping up the sewer infrastructure in town, the under the
Right.
road pipes. And so a lot of that rate has been set because we've explored this a lot. Rod was really into trying to figure out all this with the water bills and sewer, because they, and what it's been is Chris Payon, I believe, has been proactive in trying to get us to a point where he feels he can maintain the infrastructure on a slow increase of how much those go up, because we didn't have enough to really fund keeping up all the water pipes.
Yeah, and you have to maintain your retained earnings. Enterprise funds have retained earnings like the town has free cash. And so when you look at the warrant and you see $1 million from water retained earnings, those are things like the town where they have to replace vehicles and they need to do that. And that gets worked into the rate as well, because we need to make sure that we have those surpluses so that in a year they can do those improvements or replace those vehicles and do those things year in and year out.
So like a quarter of the big dump truck came from,
Correct.
or maybe one of them, I forget which ones, but they came from basically sewer retained earnings, which means the sewer bill's paid for them. So that's, I think it would get really complicated to just, I mean, I also don't know what if you told me that on my sewer bill, which let's say is, $100 a quarter or something, this is going to cost me $10 more next year, but the alternative is not to have the water treatment plant operating. I mean, it could cost, if that's the alternative, then doubling the bill would still a sensible thing, because
I mean,
you can't not have one.
Yeah, so the reality is we have to have the plant. That doesn't mean we don't manage expenses, right? But then it just becomes a question of evaluating our manager, right? So it's not a question of should we do this upgrade or not. Do we think that they are recommending upgrades, right? It comes down to trusting the folks that are doing the work. And I think that that's where Rod spent time in the meetings and dealing with the folks. I mean, the company we have managing the plant is probably the largest in the country, right? I mean, they know what they're doing. They're making educated recommendations. We're not throwing parts at a problem and hoping that there's some sort of solution, right? It is clearly a regular maintenance issue. If we really had questions, it becomes do we look and see what other people are paying for the same sort of work, right? Do we feel like we're overpaying? The reality is it seems pretty on par with the work that they've done historically.
It will
I don't
to
have a
be bid
question.
out, and
Right.
there will be an owner's project manager, but one thing to learn too is municipal construction's about 1.5 times X what you would pay for
Yeah, private residential.
if you did the work yourself at home or something. Because you have prevailing wage laws, you have to hire an owner's project manager, and you have these things like the contingencies that have to be built in, because you can't really, going back a year and a half from now and asking for more money, the town meeting cycle really doesn't work. You may not use all the contingencies, you might not, but you do, it's just more expensive to do this work the way when it's publicly done.
If I could just add one other note, I think, on sort of what Jane was saying, is that it's a lot of money. I won't belittle how much money any of it is and what we spend here, but they certainly know more than I do about what they need and how much it would cost. I can ask them for the world in sort of terms of detail, but I wouldn't know how to digest it and really equate that to dollars. And sometimes I feel that way about the studies as well. I may know a lot about a lot, right? I could tell you a lot about assessing or municipal finance, but the reality is there are professionals out there who do components of it. You know, like land management, I have faith that Jen knows a lot about conservation. I think she's very good at what she does. But there are professionals who study these things, who make recommendations. And while we may know our jobs, you know, we may have a great set of department heads who are very good at what they do. There are professionals who are focused on studying these things and making recommendations so that the department heads can implement those things. And they have a well-rounded experience in looking at other communities and how to build these plans. And then you have departments who can take that and really implement it and can work with those professionals to give advice from a different look at things. You know, and in my experience in years doing this, I've learned to appreciate, while being sensitive to the costs and sometimes shocked by some of the costs of some of these studies. And I'm not saying they're all good, right? You know, I've definitely read some bad ones. You hope that the company you're buying does a good job with it. But I do find that there's real value in having other people perform these things and give advice. And then you, as a town and as departments, decide what to do with that advice. But I think it's important, and they're frequently money well spent, to have that sort of, 30,000 foot look. So just my 2 cents.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Fair enough.
Did that help Dee?
Yeah, that's all right.
Guess you weren't here for the school budgets. School buildings.
Awesome. Any other comments? We start voting. Okay. Ahuja, yes.
Angelakis, yes.
Wait,
Sorry.
I apologize, I lost train of thought, so which one are we voting on?
16, water treatment plant.
Article 16, water treatment plant.
Lambert, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
O'Day, yes.
700.
Yep, 700.
All right. Go to the next one. Put the ball in play here.
That's
Assuming-
Article 17.
Yeah,
Yep.
17.
SRS
Assuming people are ready, or at least discuss it. I move the AFC recommends the town transfer from free cash $75,000 for the purpose of hazardous tree removal.
Bradley, second.
Any comments, questions?
Looks like a good idea to me, but I use the woods.
I definitely thought hazardous tree was going to be like sick trees or some sort of
Poison ivy.
yeah, the tree version,
The
and
one,
then
the ones in Wizard of Oz. that
I
throw
figured the ones
apples.
that were coming down.
I'm just thinking a widowmaker impacts about half the people in this room and not the other half.
I thought that was gender specific.
Yeah.
You can laugh.
Yeah.
Isn't that a triple A? You know, the aorta when it pops, they call that the widowmaker.
That is awesome.
Can be used for a lot of things.
Yes.
It's still half the population. No,
My wife's cooking, widowmaker.
I
Oh, we
No,
know where it
it
makes
Just
happens
kidding.
for me too.
what if she
it does. That's right.
so
You better not
I,
go
I
home.
guess the only question I have is
That's what happens after 9.
We have to
We
be
have
a
to
widower.
get back focused on the article.
yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm just thinking about it is that, I mean, somehow one thing which hit me, and I know I'll get killed for this, is 75,000 is $8 of the single family fund.
If
Tax.
it was paid by tax versus.
It was paid by tax, exactly. And I'm just thinking, if
Yeah.
for 1 year, if I let it be there, would it make any difference?
What
It's
do
a-
you if someone
yeah.
gets hit by a tree and you pay them
Well,
$2 million?
that's-
It's a deferred maintenance question, though. It's
It's a
a
deferred
fair
maintenance,
question, but it's
yeah.
a deferred maintenance thing.
It's
So
a deferred
right.
maintenance, and that's what I'm
That,
thinking.
that was for me, it was the
We've
backlog.
already done the deferring.
it's true. So what in for a penny, in for a pound might be one perspective. But I think the other part is that this is, she mentioned that $5,000 got 2 trees that were easy to get.
Right.
So 75,000 gets 15 trees, best case scenario.
case.
Like it's probably
Maybe
even
more
less than that.
because the ones that are by the entrance
Yep.
are you're going to remove all the stuff, chip it,
take it down, cut it neat, whereas the
say
one,
for both?
Sure.
the ones in the woods, they can cut down and lay the trees down.
Let's say I'm off by a factor
Yeah,
of
no,
two.
it's about
30 trees. I mean,
It's
so
about 20 trees.
yeah,
Something like
I guess the point is that this is just the tip of a much bigger thing. That I think that we can wait, of course, why not? But at some point, the number of risks compound
Associated.
over time. That may
I guess
impact
what would be good to know, sorry, Andrew, but I
Of
guess
course.
what would, it seemed like they have an inventory of it probably. That's what I.
They have
was made to
what?
un- An inventory of how many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
inventory.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if we can get some information like, okay, every year, how many trees are you planning? Or is there going to be like a review of those identified trees every year, which means is this going to be like a recurring?
Well, she answered that
Request.
question. She said there's a
Well, yes,
backlog
because
now.
if you think about it, some trees die every year.
Yep.
And other trees get knocked over every year. So it's not like we can say, oh, we'll do it and we're done. They will have to have ongoing
Yeah,
work.
exactly. So should this be operating budget then?
Well, that's,
what
she's saying it's a backlog, so it's more
Right.
of a, because we
This is more
haven't
we have
traditionally
to-
done as much, and they're, so,
So in my mind, it
There-
would be a backlog, right? It's a major bolus of work, you get it
Yeah.
done. And then she said that they're gonna try to work with the DPW, which would be optimal, right? To get them to do
Right.
the maintenance work, so eventually it becomes part of their both, combined operating budgets.
And Westborough Land Trust can do some of these things as
That's
well,
right.
too, potentially.
Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of variables at play, and the question is,
Yeah.
is there any reason to start this now versus waiting another year for it? And it's a fair question, but it's not like this is something that is completely out of left field. Unfortunately, it's work that needs to be done and will need to be dealt with.
At some point.
But
yeah.
maybe to your other, previous point too, it's a statement that, you like to see them get through this backlog, but then work cooperatively
with
with,
the DPW, the land trust, and
Yeah.
figure out a plan that, okay, this is
that
what
they
our.
can do this work by themselves and it won't be an incremental cost to the taxpayers.
well, it still will be. What you're proposing would be that there'd be $50,000, say, in their budget every year.
Oh,
And
no, but this is a big bolus, so then maybe, they can do 20, I don't know how many trees it is.
Some trees are going to be more expensive than others, so
Yeah.
that's irrelevant.
I'm sort of hoping though, when they do the planning study that we just talked about, that it
Yeah.
identifies this is how many trees we should be removing a year.
Yeah.
So regardless, we're behind.
Right.
So at some point we have to address the trees that are down.
To catch up.
What I want to see, and I think what we have told them over and over again, is tell us how many trees we need to do every year.
Right.
Regardless, if that number is four
Yeah.
trees, we're still 50 trees behind and are going to have to get caught up.
so this
Is the number
become a-
we're doing this year the right number or the right amount? Who knows, right? I think that's what we debate. But the reality is, whether they put it in their budget and they tackle some
or
every year in the
a
future, we're
regular
behind.
Recurring article where it just.
Every year, we want, tell us how many trees.
Fish
I actually
and
want you to
trees.
identify the specific trees in the warrant every year so we can decide if that tree is in fact a widowmaker.
Well, again, it
After
says the
9.
intent of the article, right, is to address the backlog of the tree removals.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you kind of, if you're going to use free cash, it should be more of a theoretically sort of one-time-ish thing,
right.
right?
That's, yeah.
And if it's every year you had this much, then it wouldn't make sense. But if this is a backlog, where you're going to do it for 2 or 3 years, then it could make sense.
Well, and
We're
one of
only
the
gonna
things
do
I rationalize,
3 trees every 5,000, right? Was that the number she gave?
Maso menos
Per
for two
day.
trees. Like,
5,000 is per day.
Yeah.
but I
5,000
think
for
the other
3
thing is
trees.
that these are trees that are in conservation property versus trees around town. So the key is that this is money, this goes to that whole, we don't understand our conservation area. So they're making a good faith effort to get a start on something that'll be a multi-year project. I for one, am in favor of them starting with this. If we discover that it's a much huger problem when we have the land studies, the land management plans, then that becomes another issue altogether. We start talking about what we build into their budget. But they're making an effort to deal with something they haven't historically for, not an exorbitant amount of money at this time.
Because we don't even know what the maintenance cost would be or will be.
And then
But we
also
want to
depends
know.
what you want to do with the property. too.
can affect greatly the maintenance cost.
Right. Well, which would be part of the land.
Okay.
Yeah. All comes in circles.
Anything else? So are we good to
Chasing the
vote
tail.
then?
Yeah.
So Ahuja, no.
Angelakis, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
O'Day, yes.
6-1.
6130.
Okay. 9:20. Let's see.
Well spent.
That's it. Last part,
We did the minutes already, so.
Yes.
We can go to
Liaison
the adjourn
updates.
part now.
liaison. Do we want to do it?
Liaison.
9?
Liaisons can wait till Monday, unless there's something urgent.
Not? Okay.
Move to recommend we adjourn.
Second.
Blumberg, second.
Ahuja, yes.
Angelakis, yes.
Blumberg, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap, yes.
Leslie, yes.
O'Day, yes.
Thanks, Westboro TV.
Thank you, Westboro TV. We are adjourned.
It's a late-